Hello to this Crypto Professor introduction to Shiba Inu Token. Now, I don't know about you, but I hadn't heard of the Shiba Inu Token until roughly over the weekend, where it suddenly started to capitulate, and I noticed that major exchanges were starting to list the token and crashing as a result. This is the latest meme token, if you like, Dogecoin being the predominant mainstay at the moment, and obviously having its volatility, as I reported over the weekend in my Doge video, where I am ultimately bearish on the long-term project, but obviously there's a lot of volatility to capture at the moment as the price undulates between various liquidity zones. The next major movement seems to be with this Shiba Inu token that has caught the attention of many crypto investors purely because of its price and apparent risk to reward ratio, which I'm going to explain a little bit later. But let's start with the tokenomics of this token, which are a little bit unlike I've ever seen anything before. There's 1 quadrillion tokens going to be in circulation or already in circulation. Now, that's technically not completely accurate because 50% of those have been distributed to Vitalik Buterin of Ethereum fame and are being apparently held by him with the keys destroyed, and the other half have been shared on Uniswap with also the keys burnt as well. So effectively, in the grand scheme of things, if you look at it, there's actually only 333 billion of these Shiba Inu tokens available to trade. Now that still means it's 333 times the total number of tokens of XRP or the original amount of CRO. So there's still a huge amount of cryptocurrency in which to fulfill, and I'll be doing a little bit more about tokenomics towards the end of this video when I give you a pricing structure for where I think this token theoretically could appreciate to, and also why I don't think it's got much long-term potential. However, in the short term, I think it's definitely tradable. In actual fact, I own 5 million Shiba Inu tokens at present, and I have already made 150% profit in 48 hours. So I'm doing rather well on that, despite it being, a quote-unquote joke cryptocurrency. It is worthy of some attention, especially if you know what you're doing and understand the tokenomics and understand the risk element. I didn't invest anything that I wasn't completely comfortable with losing the 100% value of, and I think that's important. These individuals who are investing hundreds of thousands in Dogecoin and crypto projects like this really need to be aware of the risk and are happy to lose everything for the potential of making a phenomenal return. And in talking about phenomenal returns, we have obviously had stories of people becoming millionaires overnight. $17 turns into $5.9 million, for example. The Shiba Inu token hasn't existed just for the last week. It actually was created in July 2020, and individuals who bought very early on in those days are now reaping the rewards of the huge market movement that has ensued since, and we've actually seen a really phenomenal return. Well, if you look at November 28th, 2020, we're up a huge amount. That's going to be 569 million% effectively. So that's a huge 57 million%. That's a huge return on your investment, obviously, from practically nothing back in November 2020. Now, obviously, no one particularly probably would have bought around November 2020. Everyone's kind of been paying attention to this as major cryptocurrency players have listed it, and that's what happened this week. Binance, Crypto.com, etc. have had various issues with the token, causing massive crashes on their systems as the popularity of this token, because of the pricing, has become very attractive to investors who have high risk appetites. And I'm going to be explaining a little bit more about that towards the end of this video. But first of all, I just want to understand the tokenomics and where it kind of sits in the grand scheme of things. So if you actually look over a long-term perspective, you'll actually see what's happened. Okay, so, up until April, mid-April, the token was practically worth nothing. and then suddenly out of nowhere, with Dogecoin exploding, this crypto has also exploded, purely probably because of its meme connection with the Shiba connection with Dogecoin. Okay, there may even be one hypothesis that I have is that individuals are selling out of Dogecoin and buying cheaper cryptocurrencies, one of which is the Shiba Inu token, which may have caused this dramatic spike, because we obviously did have a large drop over the weekend, and the liquidity from that may have been fueled into the Shiba Inu token, explaining this dramatic movement that we've just witnessed. So risk-wise, this is an extremely treacherous cryptocurrency, albeit very exciting, but at the same time I would caution anyone who's thinking of investing in this to really understand that this could all turn around in the blink of an eye, and the token could collapse and everyone could remove their capital and things might go south extremely quickly. However, there are probably fewer opportunities at the moment to make significant returns with crypto. As I say, I made 150% in less than 48 hours just from this. So in terms of that, if you're happy to risk that, and maybe the cryptocurrency you're trading with is profits, or it's come from somewhere else where you've generated a significant return from another asset, and you're happy to lose it, albeit for the chance to double or triple it, then I would definitely entertain this token. So let's actually look at the use case for the token. They have a nice website. It explains a little bit about, there's the comedy element in there as well from Dogecoin, the woof paper, etc. They are trying to build an ecosystem. This seems to have a little bit more behind it than Dogecoin, for example, where there's just a token. This actually seems like it's going to be moving towards a platform, a liquidity platform, and a specific ecosystem even. There's even news of additional cryptocurrencies coming out soon, Leash and Bone, for example, which also have different tokenomics and theoretically have different incentives on why to own them. So there is a lot going on behind the scenes of this cryptocurrency, including a Shiba Swap DeFi exchange, which is interesting. Okay, so it's going to power the Shiba Swap token, and there's going to be a DeFi swap exchange. So there's also the art and NFT tokens, etc., are coming into this as well. And even there's a charitable side to Shiba token, which kind of ticks all the boxes in terms of helping the community and getting people involved, I suppose, in helping others. So it's certainly more viable as a long-term project than perhaps Dogecoin was originally intended to be, and has kind of captured that element of building a community around a token. Okay, and that does seem to be the central ethos behind the Shiba token. They're very community focused. They're very about getting the word about cryptocurrency out, maybe even introducing low stakes cryptocurrency investing. So maybe, you know, buying a huge amount of tokens for a relatively small amount of capital. I think I bought my 5 million Shiba for about $70 or so. So we're looking at, in pounds sterling, probably £10 for a million. You know, it sounds really nice on paper when you say you got a million of a token. Okay, and obviously you can't really do that with many tokens anymore, purely because of the price for new investors. So it is kind of building people into the ecosystem to allow them to own what feels like a significant amount of cryptocurrency for a relatively small amount of fiat currency. Okay, and that might be the psychological leap that people need, because obviously, you know, who wants to own 0.0001 Bitcoin, for example? Okay, there's not much point in doing that, especially with the fees being where they are at the moment. But you might want to own 1 million Shiba token. Okay, great. Now, obviously, we're currently really oscillating and very volatile at the moment. Okay, so I'm going to be doing a little bit of token analysis. Pricing for this is a bit of a joke, if you pardon the pun, at the moment, just because the token is so newly listed on certain exchanges. When I started researching this video, the token wasn't even listed on CoinGecko. Okay, it was only listed on CoinMarketCap, and even then, it didn't appear in the usual space you would expect it for its market capitalization, i.e., in the 30s. It was actually listed way below that. So this token has kind of caught the cryptocurrency world by surprise a little bit, and the rush to buy this token has caused many exchanges to have liquidity issues and problems with their servers, etc., and the demand has been extremely high. However, for what it's worth, I have narrowed this down to a 15-minute chart, which is not particularly reliable, so don't really go on anything that I have to say here. However, I am short-term bearish on this token. I think that there's going to be better buying opportunities to appear around about 3,000 here. Obviously, I can't tell how many digits that is, but we're looking at kind of 3,000 odd on this, and then moving down to 2,750. Okay, and this is obviously USDT. Okay, so this is fractions or digits, small digits of USDT. Okay, so I would look to just call this 2,983 for simplicity and 2,726 for simplicity, rather than dealing with microscopic numbers. Okay, so I personally think that this rally, we're going to see a correction down to the 0.618, which remember we have already tapped. Okay, and the 0.786 is likely as well, as we continue down this bearish trend line here. Okay, now we could break through this. At the moment, we're obviously testing it and watching those 50 and 21 15-minute EMAs, which are obviously a very short time frame, but we haven't got much to go on here. Okay, I'm expecting this to continue down here, so if we can still continue to see this drop over the course of the next few days, then set your limits at, well, not that you can set limits, I would just look to buy at 3,000 and 2,750. I don't think there's any exchange at the moment that's offering limits on this. Okay, it's more kind of market trading as opposed to limit buy and limit sells. Okay, now naturally we could break out here and start climbing again. Anything could happen. We could have another liquidity event where a massive amount of fiat currency gets pumped into this because another exchange lists it, for example, in which case if we break through this and climb here, I would want this line to be broken and then supported, and then we're off. And if we break higher than that, then my primary target would be 4,300 and then 4,800. Okay, so there is a good chance of doubling your money again effectively between these two regions. Okay, so if we see a nice buy region between, well, under 3,000, I'd like to see it between 3,000 and 2,750, we could actually see the opportunity to almost double your capital with that. Okay, now the one thing, or several things that are holding the token back are that it is an Ethereum token. Okay, and the whole use case behind the Shiba token is that it's supposed to be easy to use for people to use in day-to-day life. Now, one of the results of this taking off is that Ethereum transaction fees have climbed to all-time highs. Okay, we're talking $40, $50 a transaction. Okay, and obviously if you're dealing with relatively small amounts of cryptocurrency in a token where millions of tokens are worth relatively little, then it's not really practical to spend that amount. Okay, you could actually get 50 times less the fee in something like XRP, for example, okay, which is purpose built for day-to-day transactions. Okay, so the use case doesn't particularly make too much sense with Ethereum being as clogged as it is, and obviously Shiba token has not helped with that at all. DeFi was already clogging up the Ethereum network, and now the Shiba token has just come along and completely obliterated any hope of lowering those fees. In actual fact, Ethereum has responded by climbing even higher, because the miners are now making nice returns, or higher returns, and therefore the token price has appreciated in situ, with obviously it catching up with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is fairly static at the moment, whereas Ethereum is catching up really nicely and currently around about $4,100. Okay, so let's just go over everything that I've said and kind of provide a summary for you of the Shiba token. So there's 1 quadrillion tokens, which looks like this. Okay, 5 sets of 3 zeros. And for comparison, this is 10,000 times more than the maximum number of XRP Okay, so obviously XRP is the third or fourth or fifth largest cryptocurrency, huge market cap. Estimates range between $5 and $10 a token. Okay, Shiba token is 10,000 times more than that. Okay, so what this means is at one Satoshi, which at the time of recording is roughly 0.006 US dollars, Shiba would have a $660 billion market cap, or roughly 300 times the current market cap of all crypto. Now that is completely out of the water in terms of achieving that. I don't think that Shiba token would ever achieve one Satoshi. Okay, I fundamentally feel that the market cap of cryptocurrency itself is unlikely, probably, to ever reach high enough for Shiba token to be worth $660 billion. At 1 cent, as many people are tentatively suggesting it might be worth in the future, Shiba may have a $10 trillion market cap unless something happens to burn excess tokens. Okay, and this is roughly all of the money, both physical and virtual, property and assets, so stocks, bonds, derivatives, commodities on Earth. So the entire world economy would be the equivalent to the Shiba markets. Okay, so again, that is an entirely irrational expectation for a cryptocurrency such as this, especially, you know, in the short term. Maybe in 100, 200 years, if Shiba token is still around, and even if the Ethereum network is still around, then we might start to approach maybe half a cent. But obviously that's a very, very long shot, and you know, there's going to be numerous cryptocurrencies replacing everything probably in the next 100 to 200 years. So as I've discussed, the use case, SHIB is an ERC20 token. Okay, so it doesn't make it very useful as a payment protocol, which is its primary use case. Okay, it doesn't really have another use case apart from that. Okay, maybe other things are coming down the line, okay, like the exchange and numerous other things, and obviously there is a community consensus behind the token. Okay, I do think it is a great experiment of a meme crypto that captures the imagination of investors who are anti-establishment. We've obviously seen this here with GameStop and Wall Street Bets, etc. There's a real anti-establishment, anti-financial element to this, anti-banking, etc. Okay, which meme cryptocurrencies like Doge and Shiba capture completely. However, like Doge, it could hurt the general crypto sector rather than help it, because obviously people are a little bit anti-crypto, or used to be anti-crypto, or the majority of people are to some degree anti-crypto. And if they discover that, you know, this joke cryptocurrency has shot up, people have made money, and then they get out and it all collapses, then it doesn't give much of a precedent for other crypto projects which people might carry across. So they might have an anti-halo effect, basically, where people see a cryptocurrency collapses and they think, all crypto is rubbish. Why bother looking and exploring it? Okay, and it also kind of has this feel about it of, you know, a joke at other people's expense. Okay, it's currently clogging up the ETH network, and not to mention several exchanges as well that are having issues reconciling transactions because of the demand. And ETH was already the most in-demand blockchain network before SHIB came along. Okay, and whereas Doge has its own blockchain, and so it is superior in that respect. And that's one of the things that Doge has that most cryptocurrencies don't, is that it has its own blockchain, its own infrastructure, its own system, and therefore it isn't relying on another cryptocurrency and isn't using another cryptocurrency's network. And as I've already said, XRP is around 20 times cheaper for transactions, for daily transactions, for spending, for purchases, etc. And it has a much bigger legacy and obviously, you know, connections within the financial world and financial industry. And obviously it does have its own issues, okay, with the SEC situation, which is ongoing and is looking rather positive at the moment. But obviously, you know, if I'm going to be spending cryptocurrency, I'm not going to be using a token that costs $20, $30, $40 a time to utilize. I'm going to be using, you know, a cryptocurrency that maybe costs $1 or $1.50 at most. So why do I think you should own SHIB, and not why do I own SHIB? Well, I think it's good to trade if you want to make a short-term profit. But remember, your short-term profit is being paid by others or later adopters who are losing money. So that might be a negative thing for cryptocurrency if, you know, the majority of people are making a lot of money at the expense of others. So maybe have a little bit of think about that. And obviously, if you're a die-hard trader, you're not going to really care about that because that's the aim of the game with all trading, okay? But it does seem a little bit unfair to be, I suppose, tricking new investors who are just getting into the crypto space, perhaps with a token like Shiba, who are going to be, you know, putting 500 quid in maybe and expecting to double or triple or quadruple it, only to find that they, you know, lose everything or they only get £100 out because they sell at a loss, etc. That profit has to come from someone and has to come from somewhere, okay? And it is a very high risk. Okay, this is higher than most cryptocurrencies. Not only does it not really have a history of trading, it's also been listed extremely quickly with a huge number of institutions. It's obviously on the tip of everyone's tongue at the moment, okay, and everyone's very excited about it. But that sentiment can change very quickly, okay? A new cryptocurrency could come out next week, a new focus for making profits, okay? As we already saw in terms of its grand scale movements, it's probably reaching the zenith of its movement at the moment. It is obviously up, you know, 37,000% in the last year, okay? Maybe it doesn't have much further to go. We will wait and see. You must be prepared to lose any money that you trade over the long term due to its poor tokenomics, market ownership, and meme status. And you may, by investing, end up paying for someone else's profits. Okay, if you're happy to do that, if you're happy to kind of play the game and play it for fun, okay, and not really worry about the return, maybe you'll make some money, maybe you won't. It's kind of like a gamble, if you like, then fine, okay? But you must enter into that world rather than thinking this is going to be the next Bitcoin, this is going to be the next Ethereum, it's going to be the next major crypto project that will make you wealthy with money that you can't afford to lose. And also it is highly likely to be tradable, but I would always trade it on centralized exchanges because the fees to interact with blockchains and doing on-chain trading with services like Uniswap and on-chain services are going to be extremely high. And if you're going to be making profits, you know, they may cover it, but I would always look to do it on a centralized exchange. Even services like crypto.com, for example, will take a reasonably high fee for trading. So if you're able to do it on Binance or another cryptocurrency exchange where you're paying, you know, 0.01% of the transaction, then fantastic, because you're likely to make much more. And obviously it's going to be highly tradable because of the volatility of people buying and selling and wanting to own as much Shiba token as possible. And getting on to the market ownership, actually, if you look at the demographic of ownership of the tokens, you'll see that it's actually a lot healthier, perhaps, than Dogecoin, okay? Purely because 50% of the market is owned by someone who I would probably say is never going to sell, okay? That's just an artifact of the setup process of the environment in which we're trading. The second one appears to be a significant whale or holder of Shiba token, and then we have exchanges, okay, and these exchanges are aggregate accounts, so these are individuals who own various amounts of Shiba token, okay, so there's less risk here that all of these tokens are going to be liquidated in one go, okay. Remember, in my previous video on Dogecoin, I identified that 80% of the market was held by 650 participants, okay? This doesn't seem to be the case here. It seems to be a little bit broader in its demographic. Whether that stays the same or not is an entirely different matter, but there are at least a lot more diversified holdings, it appears, from looking at the tokenomics on Etherscan. And obviously we have 319,000 holders, that's wallets, okay, so that's not necessarily holders. Each exchange has its own wallet, and within that there will be numerous holders, obviously Binance being one of the biggest and Hotbit also being one of the biggest holders of those exchange tokens. So I hope that's made sense. I hope you now understand a little bit more about the Shiba Inu token, and if you were to invest in it, why you would, and if you're not going to invest in it, why you won't, okay? I feel that maybe over the next month or two, it's going to have its heyday. It's going to have its all-time high. We're already 15% off that all-time high at the moment. Whether we see another one is entirely speculative. I think we probably will, okay, with people liquidating out of more expensive cryptocurrencies and just chasing the next big increase. Okay, obviously the market capitalization at the moment for this, okay, so if this were to double in value, we don't actually have a market capitalization for that there, so let me just have a look and see if I can find it on coin market cap. So yes, okay, so we've got a fully diluted market cap of $31 billion rather. Okay, so for this market value, we have to basically have the entirety of Dogecoin put into this cryptocurrency. Okay, so for you to double your money and make 100% profit, you would have to, people would have to invest the equivalent of the entire market cap of Dogecoin, which is quite a tall order, quite a tall ask. Okay, so for that reason, that's why I've taken my profits on my 150% for my 5 million tokens. One, I think that the price action at the moment is going to continue to come down. I might rebuy down at the under the 3,000 level, okay, if we see it. Okay, otherwise I'm very happy taking my 150% profits in less than 48 hours and waiting and seeing what happens with this particular token. Again, I'm not really interested in owning it for the long term. You can't stake it, you can't earn passive income from it. It is purely a tradable commodity, in my opinion. But I, it remains to be seen what happens with this cryptocurrency. I didn't think that we'd ever see Dogecoin approaching $1, for example. So I'm cautiously optimistic, open-minded enough to consider the possibilities. And if this introduces a few more million people to cryptocurrency in a safe, healthy, confined way and helps them to make a little bit of money along the way, then I'm all for it. But otherwise, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you are able to make a generous return using your Shiba Inu tokens. And as always, happy trading.